what do I always say? Fundamental things. So we're looking for those things that I've explained all the time, loads, looking for them. I've explained them loads throughout this episode. All of that we're looking for, of course we are, with the simple thing in mind. It is what it is until it is what it isn't. And this is a downtrend. And this is not an uptrend. And while people might think this is just a throwaway joke that I put into the show from time to time, this is one of the cornerstones of technical analysis, and it's why I talk about it as consistently as I do. And it's also why you'll have found then at the end of 2021 that a lot of people said that this was maybe the lesson of the year for them, really, in terms of technical analysis. Now, there was a lot of different lessons of the year. I tell you, there was, but it draws in a couple of questions, right? And one of them is the features then of this, and it is of course lower lows, lower highs. Those are the features. Over here, here's the other features. So if you're struggling to identify and how this is, how this works, it is what it is. Well, what is it? It's a downtrend until it is what it isn't. Well, what isn't it? It is not an uptrend. So it is a downtrend until it's an uptrend, right? That's what we have there. There's our secret formula. Here's the components of what a downtrend are lower lows and lower highs. And here's the components of what an uptrend are: higher highs and higher lows. And then let's just kind of break that down a little bit more. And then you go, what do you need? Well, you need to have these two things. You need to have highs and you need to have lows. Do you not? If you're to have higher highs and higher lows, or lower lows and lower highs, you're to have those things. And if you're to have those things, then what do you need? Well, you need a high, and then you need, of course, a low to compare to, right? A low to compare to. At the very minimum, just to be able to say whether or not you've got a high and a low. But then, is that actually even sufficient? Well, you'd need another high, right? And you need another high, and you'd also need another low. Another low is what you'd need to be able to start making that assessment. So you need these things. You need them. You need highs and lows. To get highs and lows, you need a high, which is then followed by another high. To get lows, my drawing style in this one could have been better. To get lows, you need a low followed by another low. Okay. Then to understand, then this is just understanding what highs and lows are, and since what we're looking for right now is for it to see if it can turn into an uptrend, that's what people would want. This is the question as well from Cookie earlier on, just to answer your question, Cookie, a bit more detail, because you're asking, and I'll just bring up Cookie's super chat again here. Cookie said, what it is until it is what it isn't. When you get into it, can you talk about what it currently is and maybe when it isn't? And this will help a little bit with understanding when it isn't for most people, who want this type of information. And you can see then that this is downtrend, it's an uptrend, and that what we're looking for is higher highs. So if we're looking for higher highs, then what are we looking for, right? What's higher highs? Well, first off, we need these things. We need a high, right? And then we need another high, right? And what is and if we were to say to people, then if I said to you, I'm going to add one more rule in, just one more rule in, just one more rule, okay, just one more rule. What would that rule be? What would that rule be if there was just one more rule about these? Just simply say that you can't be both. Okay, you just can't be both, right? because remembering at the very start of this that it is what it is until it is what it isn't. And if it is a downtrend, which this is, then a downtrend has in it lower lows and lower highs. So that means that this high was what? Because there's another rule here. You can only be one thing. You can't be two things. You can't be two things. What is this then? That is a lower high. It's a lower high, and it's a lower high, and it will remain a lower high forever and ever and ever and ever, and it will never turn into a higher high or a high. And there, in terms of this, a high, this particular a high that you need, right? So just to put that to put this into context, I know people would struggle with the English language in terms of not being condescending here. In terms of the one of the features of the English language is that we use these things, the definite article and the indefinite article, whereas this wouldn't be a problem in a lot of other languages. This is a simple point that I'm making. So what I'm really saying is that the a high of this, what you need, cannot be this, because that is already the lower high of this downward trend. So so if we can understand all of this, that you can only be like, you have to have the a high, and the a high that you're looking for is going to just be a high. It's not going to be a higher high. It's going to be a high, right? And what's it going to be? Is it going to be a higher high or a higher lower, whatever else, right? Who knows? Who knows? But we're looking for a high of some sort in here. It's probably going to be a lower high first, probably, really. But if we can get a high that's higher than this one, it remains just a high. It's a high. Okay, it just remains a high. And what made this one here into a lower high? We got lower lows afterwards, and it was obviously part of a downtrend. So that's that. It's got a lower low following on from after it. So if this turns into a high and then we get a higher low, then we've got a high, right? If we get a higher low. Because it's just such a simple formula. It's all binary as you go through it, you know. It is what it is until it is what it isn't. And that is the whole way through here. Just shuffle on down. GME pricing at $105.33 currently. And I'm trying to hit the little button to get this thing to show up, but it didn't want to show up right there. We're back in the game.